What's up, YouTube? That is something that I have not said in probably over a year. I used to make a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of trade recaps, prop firm reviews, stuff of that nature, but up until today, all of my videos have been pretty much the same niche on YouTube. And my goal is to start doing other types of stuff. Still all trading related, but different types of videos, maybe a little bit more motivational, a little bit more mental type of videos, because I think, I have really exhausted the limits of, what I can teach on, Discord, Instagram, YouTube, as far as technicals go. Obviously, I'm going to be continuing to try to share as much free game as I can on here, but this is going to be my YouTube renaissance in theory. And the reason why I made this video is because, recently I was feeling pretty inspired. I just was doing a lot of reflecting recently. Right now, time of recording this, it's May 28th. The Tradeify Grand Cup's going on. Shout out Tradeify. And I'm hopefully, knock on wood, going to make it to the next round. Be top 260 traders out of 60,000. That number one is really awesome. And just now reflecting on some of the things that I've done in the past half decade is pretty crazy. And the reason why I say all this stems from going back home last weekend. It was my dad's birthday. And just a little bit about me. If you don't know me, my name is Zach, first of all, and I'm a full-time trader. However, that wasn't always the case. I didn't really know what I was going to do in life. The only thing I did know from an early age is I wanted to be some type of entrepreneur. Initially, I was a big baseball player. I was a pretty solid recruit out of high school, and then unfortunately early on I tore my shoulder, had labrum surgery, and was lucky enough to have a good recovery and actually play collegiate baseball, Division I and Division II. My first ever hit, actually, which you can maybe see over there, was a home run, Division I home run, first ever hit, so pretty cool. But up until really college, my life revolved around baseball. That's all I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player, as any young kid does. I went to school for general business, wanted to be a sports management major, as probably a lot of kids ended up wanting to do as just a sports fan. But just being a realist, I knew after my shoulder surgery and my recovery was never quite the same, that unfortunately my shots of playing pro ball were probably slim to none. As much as I can, hit a baseball, as far as the next guy in the pros, throwing a baseball is a different story. And so, I always was interested in just doing something for myself and just being my own boss. And I think that probably stemmed from just having my entire life surrounded by, baseball, a schedule, a regime every single day. I didn't control it. And so I felt like when I knew mentally I had to make this shift from baseball to something else in life, I knew it had to be on my own terms. And I didn't know what that meant at first. As a kid, I did a bunch of other stuff. I sold things on eBay, reselling, as probably a lot of people do. I did some MLM marketing stuff, which was a great experience, but was pretty garbage down the road anyway. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was always interested in the markets. I, downloaded Robinhood when I was in high school or college, and got my free shares. My claim to fame was that I bought Enphase at $6, sold it at 11, and it ran to 300 something. But I didn't really know what to do. And then my grad school year in college was the COVID year, and so obviously anybody has no idea what they want to do in their lives at that point. The whole world's going upside down, and that for me was the moment where I was like, okay, I'm hanging up the collegiate career, I'm hanging up the spikes, as much as that sucked. But it was the first time in my life where I was like, whoa, this is weird. This is now something that I've never experienced before all this time. And I think that feeling really stuck with me, because I'm like, why would I want to continue doing anything else in my life that I'm not super passionate about? Because again, baseball, it wasn't a job. While I would have loved it to be a job, it wasn't, right? I met a lot of great people. It was, a great experience. And I really, really think that being an athlete, being a baseball player, helped and still helps me in trading every single day. That athlete mentality, that short memory, right? And I think that feeling that I felt of just this almost like freedom, it made me realize whatever I do, I have to always have that. And whatever that feeling was for me and whatever that is for you is the most important thing. So for me, that was kind of my why when I first started trading, was the fact that I just felt that, I can't even describe what it felt like. It was literally like freedom, right? It's like I had all these constraints on me for years. Again, I loved playing baseball, but there were so many sacrifices, right? I didn't really go to camps as a kid. I missed hangouts, you name it, I made the sacrifice for it, but again, all worth it, and I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. So I transitioned out of college from playing baseball right into COVID, and then, with COVID, I was working at my dad's bagel shop. So definitely not what I expected when I first went into college, thinking, 4 years from now I'd be working at a bagel shop, but, had to do what you got to do. And so during that time, no one wanted to work. And I had to keep the bagel business running. And the one thing that I really did appreciate about my dad, and still do obviously, is the fact that during COVID, he did not close down one day, not one single day. And he said even if it means he's operating at a deficit, he didn't want to take away anyone's paychecks because, the deli was a pretty busy bagel shop and it did well. And so he said if it means for, X amount of time, I have to take a little bit of a hit, it's better me than them. And so, I really appreciated that. And so by seeing him do that, it really made me want to work hard and everything. And so I was there working 6 to 7 days a week for a year and a half. From basically March 2020 COVID to the end of 2021, I was there 6 or 7 days a week. I remember there was a period, it was during the summer too, I remember just being hot, sweating, where I think I got 3 off days in 4 months or something like that. And again, I would do that 100 out of 100 times. But also, at this point, I'm still kind of in the markets. I'm still like dabbling. And now I'm starting to be like, okay, you know what? I have all this free time. Yes, I'm working at the bagel shop, but I have all this other free time where, in the afternoons, I'm not at practice. I'm not in games. I'm not traveling. I have all this time. So I started just like getting into the markets. I'm like, you know what? Let me just see what I can figure out. And just like most people, you probably realize very soon that you don't know anything. And just even if you think you know something, you don't. And if you think you figured out something, you probably didn't. And so growing up, I always took baseball lessons from, a variety of different people. But one of my last coaches, shout out Al Watson, he played, I think 9 years of professional baseball, pitcher, hitter. And my dad always knew it was very important to learn from people who had experience, doesn't matter what it is. Why? Because it expedites that learning process, right? So growing up, I always took lessons from whoever it was for baseball. And then I was like, you know what? I'm losing all my money in the markets. Let me try to get some education. And I took some, classes, one-on-one classes with people. It was not so good. It was good. I took some courses, some good, some not so good. And overall, it was a mixed bag. But I was always taught if you could take away one thing from something, doesn't matter what it is in life, it's worth it. It's worth it, right? So I started investing in my education at that point. I'm still working every day in the deli. And, I always tell people that I didn't make a lot from working there. I would work for free for my dad if I had to, obviously, but I was making about $15 an hour for a while, and then he gave me a raise to $20 an hour once he realized I was working like 70 hours a week at one point. So again, I was working a lot, not getting paid necessarily a ton. So on top of that, we had a local Japanese place that we loved, and one day, me and my sister go to pick up food, and they're like, "Hey, can you help me?" And we're like, "What do you need help with?" They're like, "We need a driver." And we're like, "Oh." And so that started about a 2 to 3 year journey with this Japanese sushi restaurant on delivering sushi 4 to 5 times a week. And that was also another gig that, listen, was it the sexiest thing in the world? No. But for 4 to 5 days a week, I'd make $25 to $35 an hour cash or so. I'd help out the small business who needed help. And the fun part is, and I'm kind of, forecasting here, but I actually was still doing that for a little bit while I was trading full time. But now heading backwards, right? I had a point now where I'm working 6 or 7 days a week at the bagel shop. I'm still doing deliveries for sushi 4 to 5 times a week. So my days literally consist of wake up, go to the bagel shop, try to figure out if I'm making some money in the markets, probably losing some money, probably making some money. Clock out, usually around like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Go to the gym, and then I had about usually 2 hours after that to eat, and then I would do some type of education or just like some back testing or research, YouTube, literally anything I could to learn about the markets. And so that happened for months and months and months, if not years, of doing both at the same time, right? And the reason why I felt like the education was so important is because before, just like anyone, I think, you follow signals or you think you know what you're doing, and ultimately you end up losing money. And everyone says, right, one of two things: you pay money in the form of tuition to somebody else to learn, or to the markets, right? And so for me, I was like, you know what, I think I realized earlier than not and earlier than most that I'm done paying tuition to the markets. And so I want to try to invest in myself, right? And I think that I literally remember one time, which I don't know if this was the moment or just one moment that stuck with me. I had such an up and down roller coaster, up, down, thousands, right? Because I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea of risk management. I'm trading 12 different tickers a day. I called it a CVS receipt of tickers. If you looked at my Tasty trade back then, you could probably even go back on my Instagram from like 2021. You could, when I was posting my trades, not even knowing. I was trading every ticker. Any ticker that looked good, you name it, I was in it. Even if it was just like $100, I just had to do it. I think because my FOMO was just so bad back then. But anyway, point is, that really sparked the turn for me, because at one point I remember I was on vacation, and I don't really remember why. I probably had a reason that obviously was wrong, but I woke up, opened my Webull, I literally watched the clock count down. I went on SPX, I'm not even watching any charts, nothing, and I put like $5,000 into SPX 0-day calls. No idea why, legit no idea why. And then in an instant, I was down. This was during like peak COVID too. So, we were getting gap ups, gaps down, limit up, limit down. I was like, if I put in 5,000, we limit up, I'm gonna make XYZ. I'm already doing the calculations in my head. By the time I can think, boom, it's like half gone. And so that was like the real like epiphany for me, where I'm like, okay, I've been kind of half in, half out, trading stocks, trading options for about 2 years at this point during COVID, maybe about a year and a half. Really done zero education. And so that was the moment for me that really sparked that. So now we kind of just like fast forward to the next like year and a half. I'm obviously doing what I'm doing, grinding, literally grinding, spending all this money on just education, tuition to the market, and to my education now. So yes, I'm still going to have losses regardless if I'm taking my own trades or following others, right? The only way to really learn is through experience. And it's either experience of others or experience of yourselves. I still have my first ever trade log that I made on my Microsoft Excel. That first ever trade log had, I think, like 120 trades. And I'll never forget that the point, I think it was towards the end of the summer, I started winning more. I'm like, wow, my win rate's going up to like 60%, 65%. This is good. But then I realized, wait, my losers are way bigger than my winners. I'm like, this can't be right. Like, I have to figure out a way to stop this. And then sure enough, that developed into, different, mindsets and systems, etc. But that, something that's so simple, but until you start doing it on your own, you don't really realize the impact of, R multiple or win-loss ratio, or how those two things coexist, right? So that's about a year and a half going by, from about March to call it like August of 2021. And then at this point, August 2021, I'm starting to click a little bit, right? The win rate's going up. Yes, I'm still having losers that are large, but I'm like, you know what? I can see it. I can see the vision. I can see it all stacking. Now, all I need to do is control those losers. And if I can control those losers, like, that's all I need to do, right? Obviously, no. And, looking back almost 5 years ago now, it's like, wow, if I knew, people always say, oh, if I knew what I knew now than back then. No, all I wish I knew back then is that I didn't know anything, and that keep going, right? And I always say this, that, so the way for me, people always ask, oh, how do you know if you're ready to go full time? And the truth is, guys, I think I went full time a little bit too early. However, it got to a point where I was working sushi, right? I was doing that 4 to 5 times a week. I was working at the bagel shop, 6, 7 days, even if I toned it down to 5 to 6 days at times once we were kind of more properly staffed. And again, I told you guys I would work for my dad for free, but there were times where I would open up my charts and have my swing trades hit, boom, and I'd make $1,500, $1,200, $1,000. And again, back then, that was like the most insane thing ever. I'm pressing some buttons and I'm up 4 figures overnight. And don't get me wrong, $1,000, still $1,000. It's a lot of money. But back then, it hit like I hit the lottery, right? And so at that point, I realized, Dad, I'm making more, or as much as I'm making here, working 60 hours a week in just overnight when I'm not even putting in any work. So that was the first sign that the wins started to become bigger. But then after that, it was because I remember there was a peak point in, I think it was November 2021. The market actually started to peak at that point, and a lot of individual names started to go down. And this was the first time in my trading career where I was making money when the stocks were going up and down. And honestly, doing some of the at the same time on the same day. Different stocks, different ideas, different directions, but I was making money on both. And I said, hey, if I can make money if the market goes up and if the market goes sideways, and if the market goes down, I can make money in theory in any way. So whatever the market throws at me, I can handle. And again, this is me just now kind of on a hot streak, right? I had my biggest trade ever at this point. I oversized insanely on Meta. I'll never forget this trade. I oversized insanely on Meta. I probably put in like I don't even know, insane amount of my portfolio went into meta calls. I made like 28,000 or 29,000 in one day. And I'm like, whoa, I got it figured out. Obviously I did not. So fast forward to 2022 and like, the end of Q1 is when I officially quote went full time. And at that point, even when I was quote full time, I probably was at the tail end of my break even stage. I didn't realize it until, obviously later on, but I think I was. And the reasoning why I say that is, looking back, there was a lot more ups and downs than kind of just like a steady equity curve that you want to see. And again, you're still always going to have up and downs, but it was a lot more volatile. And there's a lot more moments where I would like second guess myself back then. Obviously you still do it, but like not necessarily second guess yourself as far as like, oh, why did I take that trade? It was like, oh, like, can I trade, right? And I always tell people the end goal of trading is really infinite, right? And what's very interesting, at least for me, is everybody should have their reasoning, their purpose for wanting to trade, right? And for me, like I said, it was that freedom. It was that time freedom. And I always say that good trades result in money. Money is the outcome of good trades. You're not looking to make money in the market. You're looking to do other things that result in making money, right? If that makes sense. So basically, by following your rules, sticking to your setups, being patient, that makes you money. You don't make money by taking, trades per se. Money is the outcome of that, right? And so you all have some type of initial starting point on the why you get into trading. But the end goal, like I said, is always infinite and it's always changing. And for me, I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying to do better, right? I remember I would usually say stuff like, oh, to my teammates in college, I'll be like, oh, if I can make $200 a day, it's $1,000 a week. And then, as I got better, I'd be like, can you imagine making $400 a day? That's $2,000 a week. That's $100,000 a year, which again, is still a lot of money, right? However you want to cut it. And I literally remember saying these things. I remember I was even with a couple of my teammates in a Chipotle. I had a big day. I don't remember how much I made or what I did, but I just remember saying like, yeah, the end goal, right, would be $400 a day. Like, what more do you need than that? And obviously, at some point you have to be content in life and you have to, be happy and find that happiness outside of money, of course. But just to think, right now, for example, my goal when I was like 21 was $400 a day. And right now, at the time of recording this, it's, May 29th, 2026. I could stop trading right now and I would have already over tripled my goal from back then already year to date. I'm on pace, knock on wood, for 7xing, 8xing that goal on the year, which is just crazy. And just goes to show how the possibilities are really, really endless when it comes to trading, right? And that's, I think, a little bit of what I felt this last weekend. Just, whenever I go home, I always just kind of like reminisce about different things. And just like really this last weekend, I think it hit me like, wow, I'm lucky to be in the position I'm in. Obviously a bunch of different reasons, but now just being able to help others, right, and teach others. And, that I think is what kind of inspired me to, start potentially making more YouTube videos, right? Get more involved here and in different ways, not just here's how to trade a bull flag, here's how to bounce off VWAP, right? Other ways that can be impactful. And, I don't really have a sole purpose for this video. There's not like one end goal for this video similar to trading, right? There's not one end goal per se. But I just figured if I can hop on here and just share my story, maybe it resonates with some of you guys. I think, if I can just help a couple people out, it's worth the 15, 20 minutes I take to sit in front of this camera. And I really tried to just like run it through. I probably stuttered and I probably said some stupid crap along the way, but I did want it to come from the heart. And again, I always believe that you can never forget, regardless of what you're doing, in this case obviously trading, but you can never forget why you started, right? And so for me it was that freedom. So for those that are struggling along the way, you have to now ask yourself, whenever you hit a hardship in your trading career, or maybe it's like you're even a little bit profitable and then you hit a big loss, you always have to ask yourself one of two things, right? What is keeping you out of the game and how do you stay in the game? And the answer is always kind of intertwined, chicken and the egg style. People quit trading for one of two ways. It's either they run out of money or they run out of love for the game, right? Like for me, for example, I had times where I played baseball, and there was times where I did question if I wanted to continue to do it, right? Especially, in my later years of high school and college, obviously I was somewhat of a shell of what I was. For my baseball players out there, I was throwing like 85 miles an hour as a freshman in high school, and then in college, I probably could go on the mound and top out at like 78. And just to know, wow, 5 years ago I was throwing 7 miles an hour harder than I am now, it's just a bad feeling. And so that ambition, that love, that passion at times faded. So you have to ask yourself, right, when it comes to trading, what do you want to do? And like, really, what do you want to do? Do you want to trade because you want to make money, or do you want to trade for other reasons? The ambition to trade has to be there. Trading is the best, but arguably the hardest profession in the universe. I always say to my family or friends, like, imagine going to work and one day they're like, hey, you know what? You tried really hard today, but I'm going to take your entire week's paycheck plus some from you, and you got to earn it back. You'd be like, hell no, I'm not doing that. And sure enough, that's what traders do every single day, right? That's what they do every single day. And so you always have to constantly remind yourself the why, and you always have to now along, maybe not so much now in the position I'm in, but along the way, ask yourselves, is it the ambition or the money keeping me from achieving my goals? If it's the ambition, then guess what? Maybe it's not for you. Certain professions are just simply not for certain people. I personally can't imagine myself doing anything else on this planet. However, not everyone is equal, right? I don't necessarily like playing golf as of right now. I'm trying to get into it. However, I know there are tons of people out there that love golf. And so everybody's ambition is different. If you just truly don't love it, if you don't have a passion for it, stop. However, if you think it's a money issue, that can be fixed. Whether you want to put in the work to fix it or not, that is the different story. Like I said, I was working 6 to 7 days a week, $20 an hour at a bagel shop. 4 to 5 days a week, grinding at nights, driving around aimlessly for hours for $25, $30 an hour, delivering sushi. Both of those are not sexy jobs, but I was willing to do whatever it takes to achieve my goals. And now I'm hitting numbers that I never thought were imaginable, that I thought were like insane goals. And it really, really, puts things into perspective when you reflect and you realize what it took to get here. And now, like I said, I'm really appreciative of the position that I'm in right now, being able to help others learn, and more than anything, expedite that learning process. It doesn't have to take years, half a decade. If you're really passionate and you have the right mindset, you have the financials straight, you have your head on right and your bearing straight, you can achieve certain reasonable milestones in months, if not years, right? I have people that in months are changing their lives. Others, it maybe takes 8 months to a year. Others, maybe even longer. However, the end net is that if you are a trader and you have the ambition and you can figure out the money issue, it is not a matter of if, it is simply a matter of when. And everybody's different, right? Everybody learns at a different pace. Everybody grows at a different pace. But, for those that work with me, who follow me, obviously I'm going to try to give you guys as much value as possible. And speaking of value, next week at the time of recording this, June 2nd, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, we're doing a free webinar, basically sharing you guys all the secret sauce that has helped me so far this year have about $340,000 of futures payouts year to date. At the time of recording this, I think my last 13 of 15 option swing trades have been bangers. It's been a really hot month. And I'm hoping I can look back at this video months from now, a year from now, and be like, wow, remember when I did that? That was the start of something big. That was the start of something new. And if you guys stay to the end of this, that means you guys are hungry. You guys want it, similarly to me, right? If you guys are willing to absorb anything and everything, it doesn't matter what it is, you guys will make it. Just know that. And so, for those that are watching this in the future, which is weird to even say, I hope this sparks something. Maybe you were or are gonna be a student of mine. Maybe I've already helped you along your journey. I'm kind of using this as a little bit of a personal diary here. So, I just really am on this journey to make an impact, because I could have, forget trading, I could have quit this side of the trading space years ago. I was making like $1,500 a month, which again is great, but the amount of effort I was putting into my Discord at the time, it's not worth it. I truly do it because I really like helping people. I always say that I helped, little kids learn how to play baseball, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds. And now, fast forward now, I'm teaching people of all ages how to trade. So I feel like teaching was always in my blood. And so I hope this video helped you guys. I hope you guys stay along for the journey. I'm not sure how you're seeing this, where you're seeing this, or when you're seeing this. But if it helps in some way, shape, or form, then I think I did my job. And for those who are free in the future, in the past, in the current tense, I don't even know what tense we're talking about right now. I hope to see you guys on June 2nd in preparation for my second ever mentorship. And that's all I got. I hope there's many more YouTube videos. I hope they're all better than this, worse than this. I don't know. But it's all uncut, real. And that's it. So I think that's all for me. And I guess see you guys in the next video.